I'm John Batchelor. This is the John Batchelor Show. It's a pleasure to welcome my colleague, Larry Kudlow of CNBC and Kudlow Radio on the weekend, and I believe we're going to find Steve Moore of the Heritage Foundation soon enough. Larry, a very good evening to you. It was convenient for CNN and Wolf Blitzer to end the debate in Las Vegas just as we're coming on air. So it's a pleasure to welcome you. I did not have occasion to watch this debate. I've been on air talking about the threat in the Baltic Sea, the threat in the Black Sea, the threat in the Mediterranean. I'm told, however, reading headlines, that this debate was much devoted to foreign policy. Rather than get into who won and who lost, how do you regard the presentation of all the candidates tonight, of the handling of the foreign policy discussion? A good evening to you, Larry.
Good evening, John, and thank you. It was principally a debate about foreign policy. I would say about 100% on various aspects, either homeland or foreign policy. Look, I'm going to just make a terrible generalization here. I don't feel as though I learned anything new. And I do feel that I missed the energy and urgency to destroy ISIS in Iran, in Iraq, and Syria. And I thought so many of the responses by the debaters were incomplete, just incomplete. There were some great moments. Maybe we'll get into that. I have praise for some of the things I saw, so I'm not panning it entirely. But again, John, I'm a guy who was very frustrated with the lack of energy, urgency, and intensity to destroy ISIS, as the generals are telling us. And by the way, Carly Fiorina mentioned the warrior generals. I like that very much as her best line of the night. We need the warrior generals. We need to destroy ISIS, including the Homeland Security, John. I'm not sure I heard the urgency there either. So I guess at the end of this thing, I'm exhausted. It took so long. I'm a little bit disappointed, if you want to know the truth. I'm a little bit disappointed.
We'll get into the details. That was Larry's presentation of a debate that I've only read and not listened to. We welcome our colleague, Steve Moore. Steve, a foreign policy debate tonight, and in general, I'm reading the positive reviews of how CNN handled it, how Wolf Blitzer handled it. What is your regard of the presentation, of the theater of it? Was it in hand, Steve? Good evening to you.
Hi, John. Hi, Larry. Look, I think Wolf Blitzer is fabulous. Did a great job. And I think the whole CNN, and look, I'm a Fox News contributor, so, and I was very harsh when it came to the CNBC debate because I thought that was so fumbled. But look, Wolf Blitzer is one of the great pros in the media, and I thought it was fair, and I thought they were tough, and so I liked it a lot. I thought just a couple observations. I mean, one is I thought Jeb Bush had a really, really good debate. And this may be, a lot of people writing off Jeb for dead. I thought he looked presidential, Larry. I thought the way he handled Trump was just very professional. And, I've always been a big admirer for Jeb, so I was cheering the fact that he was much stronger in this debate than he was in the previous ones. I thought Christie looked strong. I think Cruz did. The one thing I didn't see in this debate, because I'm an economist, I wanted more the connection between what we're doing here at home to ruin our economy and how that jeopardizes our national security. For one example, and this wasn't brought up enough, energy policy. If we want to beat the terrorists, John, we need to use our energy, our domestic energy, not disarm our energy and not stop drilling, but drilling more. And only a couple of candidates really ever even brought that up. I think Ben Carson was one of the few who brought that up.
By the way, I thought Ben Carson had a very good debate. He was really well prepared on a number of subjects. Probably his best debate in the last few. I agree with Steve. The only guy I really mentioned to Steve that I saw was Kasich. He said we've got to grow the economy in order to produce the resources to generate a strong national defense. That was good. I like that. So you're quite right. I thought in the undercard that Lindsey Graham had a terrific performance tonight with his national security message. And in fact, regarding my points about urgency and leadership, I thought he had it. I thought, in fact, of all of them in both debates, Lindsey was the guy who lit a spark and really showed how important this whole war is. You know, he talked about the war. The others, John, didn't talk about the war. The war. And they didn't talk about declaring war. I mean, once in a while they did, but I didn't see, you know, where's the NATO declaration? Where's the UN declaration? Where someone did mention the congressional declaration. I'm sorry, I probably have it here in my notes, but I don't know who it was. My friend Steve Moore, I don't think Jeb Bush had a good debate. I'm sorry, buddy. One thing that drove me crazy, this is the most superficial thing I'll ever say in 12 years on Bachelor, Jeb should have put his tie up. His tie was slumped below his collar. And he looked like he was, I don't know, he looked like he had one too many.
Oh, television is presentation, Larry. You're a pro at it, so I listened to you on it.
I hate to be unfair,
Yeah,
but
no, it's not. No, fine. You'd straighten, on CNBC set, you'd straighten his tie, right, Larry?
You do, darn
right,
it.
right.
And if you don't, the producers do. And I think it made him look a little goofy. I don't think it was a great debate for him. It's funny. Carly Fiorina answered a China question that was terrific in its depth and its detail was terrific. Many other times, I didn't hear much from her at all. There was a lot of backing and forthing between Trump and Cruz, particularly Cruz and Rubio. Those guys went at it on a number of issues, immigration and other issues. I don't think I learned a thing. I don't think anybody cares about the details of these legislative proposals. I'm writing about this, John. It's not my usual thing, but we are in a war, and there ought to be a sense of urgency about destroying ISIS. And we're not getting that in this debate. And similarly, I don't believe we're getting it on the Homeland debate, where I do want a moratorium on refugees and, frankly, on immigration. So I don't know. Carly Fiorina made a statement. She didn't really follow through, but she said, where are the warrior generals? And she mentioned Petraeus and Keene and a couple of others. That was good. That was really good. Where are these warrior generals? Well, the answer is Obama pushed them out. And I thought that was really a good point, so I'll change my tune. I give Carly a lot of credit on that point.
Steve, I want to press you on that. Larry, I'll come back to you on the visas because you've written about this, and that's important given the failures of Homeland Security. Steve, there was Asia discussion, there was a China discussion, and that tangentially is about the economy. How did the candidates who commented on Asia look at China, look at our trade with China, look at our relations, and especially the hacking, the cyber attacks we know China launched? They speak to that, Steve.
It didn't come up very much, John. I mean, this debate was 80% about the Middle East
I see.
and ISIS. And I think at the very end, I think it was Carly was asked a question.
I saw North Korea go by very quickly,
Yes.
and I saw some attention to China, some.
He gave a great...
But I think, but I want to go back to something Larry said, because I think there was a very lengthy and somewhat educational debate about immigration and its role in security. And this is something that, Larry and I very seldomly disagree on, but he and I disagree on this one. I mean, but they had a really interesting conversation about, what is the role in immigration and refugee policy with respect to security. And look, I want to win. I think the one thing everyone said in this debate that is so obvious is that our security is very much in jeopardy if Hillary Clinton becomes the next president, because this is a point that the candidates made over and over, and I thought was a strong point, which was that Hillary has not at all separated herself, at least to this date, from Barack Obama's failed policies. Well, how could she? These were her policies to a large extent. And I wasn't quite as down on these candidates' performance as Larry was. I thought they actually sounded very knowledgeable. There was a good kind of debate about what is America's role in the world. Should we be in the Middle East? I mean, Rand Paul, talked about, maybe if we didn't have such an active involvement in the Middle East, we wouldn't have the terrorists at our doorsteps. And people can agree or disagree on that, but it's a good
I want to speak about border security, Larry, because you've written about it when we come back, because the facts reported in these last days is that the Department of Homeland Security under Mr. Johnson has not done a thorough job of protecting America, especially with regard to fiancé visas. And Larry, you've spoken very specifically about that. I want to hear whether that was mentioned tonight in the Republican debate in Las Vegas. This is Steve Moore of Heritage and Larry Kudlow of CNBC. When we come back, America's security, especially with regard to the visa program. I'm John Batchelor.